There we go, one tiny step closer. Man, there's a lot of equity in that piece. It's pretty though. Good Monday morning to you all. We're back in the shed with MV Zephyrs. I don't know if you can see that all the paintwork is done. Brightwork is done. Paintwork over there is done. Hatch is repainted. Lady Zephyrs has been very busy while I've been away for the weekend. All this is done all the way up. Okay, well that's fantastic. Doesn't mean there isn't stuff to do. Of course, we have to carry on with these little delights here, but we're getting started today on this brow piece drip rail because it's got a little bit of a drip in it, a gutter sort of thing. It's the only piece of really, well, you can see, really nasty wood left on the boat. Let's get that off and let's make a new one. Okay, been watching the show more than a few weeks. You'll know my technique for getting bungs out involves heat and a screw. In this case, it's a bit difficult because, I'll tell you why, because the wood is very punky and the bungs are very shallow. Let's have a look here. Yeah, there's nothing much left of these. I was going to say we'll put some heat on those, but we may just be picking them out. There we go, no problem. Normally I would resist using a pick because of the risk of damaging the hole, but this whole piece of wood is being removed, so there's no trouble there. Okay, let's see if we can get at some screws in here. I think that's a rotten mess is what that is. Let's try this one. I'm seeing a lot of rust come out of here, and as usual, mild steel fasteners. Mild steel fasteners. Why? Okay, these are all completely rusted out. So we're gonna have to resort to the core drill technique, which is where I take a small hole, and let me just do it, I'll show you. So the idea is to take this little hole saw and drill it right over the existing screw, thereby releasing the main piece of wood from the fastener, and then pulling off the main piece of the wood, and you have a whole bunch of little bungs which you can easily just grab and split open and grab the fastener with a pair of vice grips. And I just use this little piece of wood as a guide, so there's no chance this thing walks all over the rest of the boat. I mean, that's the idea anyway. So place it, apply the guide, and start drilling. Once I'm getting started, I can take the guide away. Now I don't want to drill too far because I don't want to make a mess of the side here. So I can tell when I hit that magic spot, it kind of pops. All right, off we go. Right there, there. Oh, I hope it goes without saying, there's no pilot bit here, right? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, there are currently no fasteners holding this. You can see it's even a little bit loose. I'd be tempted to put a little heat on here, but I'm not sure I'm going to need it. So let's see if we can get this to move at all with very limited persuasion. Oh yeah, no problem. There we go. And away! Okay, so what do we have here? We have all my little bungs with screws in them, which we'll deal with. And we have fiberglass, which is basically, was trimmed at the bottom of this piece of trim, which I don't like much at all. So what I'm probably going to do is once I pull these bungs out, I'll slice this off at least halfway up. So that I can clean the bottom edge and the top edge as well as I can. So when the new piece of trim goes on, there really isn't any gap at the bottom. I think we were getting some moisture in under here. Now there's one more little thing I gotta get, and that's I gotta take this curved block off. And well, that curved block is, well, it's gonna be something to make another one. Let's go look at the one on the other side that some clever person made sometime fairly recently. Just to show you how high the bar is set, this side has a beautiful new gutter rail on it, put on at some point. And the nice thing about that is it also has that really nice block up at the front here, really nicely detailed. So this is what I'm gonna have to achieve. I did not make this. So taking these bungs with the screws off is really sort of a couple of step process. First I grab it, bound to just crush and break the bung, but I'll start turning just in case the screw comes out with it. Oh, and look, in this case, it just allowed me to pull the screw right out, and that's done. Slight advantage if I crush with the fibers and rather than against them. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, just a huge pile of filler and yuck. Okay, so this original rail, gutter rail, is actually just over 13 feet long, and I don't have any stock that long, so I'm going to have to scarf together two pieces. And to make a long 12-to-1 or so scarf, I'm going to make a little jig out of this nice piece of yellow cedar so I can hold it all together. So it doesn't have to be exactly anyway. I'm going to do a 12-to-1 basically. And as long as they're both the same, it doesn't really matter if that's exactly 12-to-1 or not. There we go. Put that right on there. Draw that line. And let me go rip this. Okay, so you might just say, well, why not just freehand the scarves on the two pieces of mahogany? Well, that's because it's a much smaller, much shorter scarf, and it's hard to get it as accurate. This way, any irregularity, if I missed by a 1/16 over a foot, that's a very small irregularity over the smaller portion that I'm going to actually be cutting the scarf on the other. I think you'll see what I mean. Okay, I'm going to epoxy this joint just for maximum strength, and it's West System epoxy thickened with 403, and let's slather it on here. All right. I know what you're saying. It's going to bond to the bench. Never mind bonding to these. I think I'll get it off. But I'm going to lift it off the bench. And good morning. Well, let's see what we can do about getting this back apart. I am sure it's going to be a challenge. Okay, so the next bit is a little trough cut in the top here, the actual gutter. And I don't mind admitting I'm a bit stressed about this cut. I don't use these fences very often on these little routers, and I'm going to take it in at least 2 cuts, and that'll also help me guide exactly where it's going to sit. The trough ends up being dead center with a little lip on both sides, which I'll also ease over afterwards. But anyway, let's see how this goes. Holy smoke. I would say that went bloody well. Okay. Ooh, I can tell you the stress here is pretty intense. I only have to blow out or make a mistake in one place, and this is ruined. Okay. And it just happened. I don't know why it pulled on me there, but it did, and all of this is garbage. Okay, well, now I'm going to rip 2 strips out of this, actually the sweetheart of the mahogany we got from Fort Townsend, with the exception of this split, but that'll work out well for making another gutter piece. But the magic to this particular operation is that I've decided to make these strips 1/2 inch wider than necessary. And the reason for that is, if I mess up the gutter trough, I have 2 chances. I can just rip it off again and make another one. Okay, there's the new scarves. Actually, I should have showed you because I'm getting better at it. These are actually much nicer scarves than yesterday's, so hopefully it will carry on. One thing about making scarves with varnish grade wood is you have to make sure they overlap by enough, because if they don't, you end up with a divot here that will always be full of epoxy. So you got to make sure, if you're going to err on one side or the other, err on slightly more overlap. There we go. And so I do a dry fit first and put a mark. So that way I goop them up, I can put it back in the same place without it getting all out of control. Okay, check on that in the morning. And good morning. Well, let's see how this turned out. At least it's not stuck. Yes, I realize packing tape is the proper tape for this. I just don't have any. This will at least solve the bulk of the problem. Okay. Okay, well that's largely one piece of wood. I'll tidy up the fairing here a little bit, and wow. Okay, time to try this again. I couldn't figure out why I blew out, but most of you, or many of you, may already know. I had to review the footage to see what I did wrong. Let me show you. I started out routing with the fence on this side, and I did really well. And then I turned the router around and I worked with the fence on the far side and instantly had the blowout. And the reason for that is that the router bit rotates clockwise when looking down. And so with the fence on this side, that clockwise rotation and the leading edge, climb cutting, pulls the router in that direction and the fence keeps it from moving that way. However, when I turn the fence around, the router bit is still turning this way and the router bit is still climb cutting in that direction, and it very easily pushed the fence off the work, and well, it did what it did. 100% operator error, which makes me happy because all the time I was making this until I figured it out, I was going, am I going to destroy another piece of wood? Anyway, so let's have another go here. Woohoo! All right, and a perfect cut. I'm also going to do this in 2 cuts, which will make life a little bit simpler for me. And now the final depth. Everyone's celebrating with me. I have concluded the gutter routing and we can move on. Now, because I made this wood extra wide just in case I had to cut this and redo it, now I have to cut off the extra bit. No problem. I'm happy to do it. And now the round over on the bottom edge. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Getting closer. Okay then, well, a little bit of easing, softening of the edges, and this thing is pretty much ready to be installed. Not that the boat's ready yet, but anyway, we'll see. Just soften the insides here just a little bit. This is looking great. It's really looking great. But if you thought we were out of the woods, we're not. One last very stressful step is to hollow the back. The side of the boat is curved, plus there's the termination of the fiberglass on there. I have to hollow the back of this so it'll sit tight at the top and the bottom. Now there's a bunch of ways I could do this. The most obvious would be to put it in the table saw and put a jig so that I would slide it at a slight angle to the blade, which would cut out a nice arc in the bottom. However, it's 14 feet long, and it's actually not always that easy to clamp stuff to the table saw. So I'm going to clamp something to the circular saw. The first thing I'm going to do is plow a trough in the bottom of this piece of plywood that's exact same size as my piece of work, and then this will act as a guide for the saw to, I think you'll see what'll happen. And now we have a sled that slides on our workpiece. Okay. So the idea now is to sit the circular saw in here in exactly the right place so that the blade will protrude through here and cut a trough in here, right? One of the things that's always, well, I won't say annoyed, but bothered me about this saw is it doesn't have any holes in the bottom for the purpose of affixing it to things. So today is the day I do something about that. So let's see what we can do. All right, this saw just became 10 times more useful. Well, today anyway. So I figure if I translate the trough up to this side, I can then guess, at least get started, where the blade can drop through. Set the blade nice and shallow. And touch it dead center between these two, and then just rotate on that a little bit to about there. Yeah, Then I'm going to put one screw in. Raise the blade, hold it where it is, make a mark where I'm starting, put the battery back on, and make a little nick. Yep. Now if I rotate this out of the way, I can see that my nick is a bit too far this way. So I'll rotate a bit to there and try again. 3/8 and 3/8. Excellent. So I swing it back to that line and I put some more screws in. Got to be careful with this one because it goes in to the trough, so I got a short one. Okay, we have something to work with here, but we're not going to put it on the real work just yet. We're going to put it on a test piece for sure. Okay, here's our guinea pig. Let's see if we can cut a nice trough in the bottom of this. Well, it's cutting a great trough. I think I'm just going to have to do it in subsequent passes. So let's try a little shallower. All right. Now that's probably more hollow out of the back than I really needed. I probably could have put the saw on much more of an angle. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe I do that. We're so close. Yeah, let's do it right. Okay, let's have another go at our test piece. Oh, that's excellent. That's perfect, 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 perfect. And it won't be nearly as deep. Whew. I'm gonna get started down there. By the time I get to here, either I'm gonna be super thrilled or, well, you can guess. Oh yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, a perfect little cove. Holy mackerel. I do believe, folks, the stressful part of this is over. I sort of feel bad taking this apart. It's kind of part of me now. I'm actually going to pre-oil this piece. Why, I'm not exactly sure. How about this roller cage? Yeah, I mean, I got the stuff. Okay, anyway, let's just get some oil on here and call this. And there we go. It's time to make this little turning block here. Well, not this one, but one exactly like it for the other side. The only problem is it requires a pretty big piece of wood, which I don't have. So we gotta glue up a couple of pieces to make it. So we got one pretty nice big block. We'll smooth that out a little bit. And one piece of spiller. Good transfer. What I really don't want is a void, but I also want it as thin as possible. So I'm going to just squeeze it around a little bit here, just to get every last drop out that's not necessary. Alright, tomorrow that will be a single piece of wood. Let's see if I can turn this into one of these. Okay, so this is indeed a pretty nice solid block of mahogany. Now, let's not mess this up. Okay, so the inside radius here is about 2 inches, which is actually significantly larger than the other side. And so that's basically the inside arc, and the outside arc will be, well, 3/4 of an inch more to account for the thickness of the gutter piece. Okay. Alright, so I'm hoping this block is big enough that I might get 2 out of here if I have blundered it, but let's hope not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is clamp on this piece of wood as a bit of an extension for a center line to draw the arcs. Let's see if I can get 2 clamps on here. That'd be awesome. Excellent. So I'm going to start with the outside arc, which is 2 3/4 of an inch. See? It may be possible that I didn't even need this block, but this wasn't very easy to determine in advance. Come to about there. Come to about there. Okay, now I'm going to make a good divot in there so I can find it again and reduce to 2 inches. Ha! It may be that I didn't even need the extension. Oh, Peter. And draw this line. How about that? I didn't actually need to put... Oh well, no loss. It was fun. Now I just have to cut more material away. I don't know if you folks can see that that's my piece right there. And now I'm thinking if I don't need this block, well, let's just do it out of another piece of mahogany that it'll fit out of. Peter, I'll save this for something else someday. Lo and behold, the whole thing fits on a piece of slightly shy of 2-inch stock. Okay. It was a great glue up though, wasn't it? It was. Switch-o, change-o. Okay. Okay, I've left myself a little wiggle room here. Let's smooth out the inside. And the only way I can think of doing that is with my old friend. Ah, yes. Okay, I just realized that this is more complicated than I thought. If I was to put my block down here, you could see I'm pretty close. I'm almost there. But up here, no, I'm nowhere close. In fact, look at that big gap at the back. Well, that's because the radius down here is 3/8 of an inch less than it is up here. There's a big protrusion out here. And, well, there's nothing I'm going to do about that now. So I've got to make the bottom half of this fit here and the top half fit here. As if this wasn't complicated enough already. Okay, it's coming along nicely. This little notch here, plus a little more sanding down there. Let's start on the outside, starting by chopping off the bulk of it here. Okay, so this is going pretty well with its little notch and slides around. That's a perfect fit. I got a little section of the gutter and it slides right in here and is perfectly flush. Okay, so now I have to do a couple of things. Put this quarter round all over the bottom and cut a little bit of gutter into here, just a tiny little section of it, and then ease the whole thing. Now for the round over on the bottom, I could probably reset the router in the table with the bearing and hand, and this thing is just, I don't know, the grain direction. I think I'm just gonna sand it in. Yeah, just sand it. All right, that worked out pretty well. Okay, this is freaking precarious. I'm gonna do it. I think if I'm very careful here and leverage it against the fence here, I can do this little cut. Oh God, let's see. Beauty. Oh yeah. And there we go, one tiny step closer. Man, there's a lot of equity in that piece. It's pretty though. And let's carry on with this little project, what I call the gutter. I suppose it is a gutter. Let's do some test fitting now that this is painted. Okay, so the corner piece fits absolutely perfectly. So happy with that. And that'll join up with the actual main gutter, which also fits in there absolutely perfectly. So super happy there. What I need to do now is, let's look at the back. Back here is a little complicated. I wanted to fair the bottom edge into this, and that works out pretty well, but this piece doesn't project far enough to cover it, so I'm going to have to ease into this quite a bit and adjust how this all fits, and then I have to put a little curve in the gutter here so it'll drain down. Of course, this is going to be a moisture risk area, so I have to make sure it's bedded and sealed really well. The other thing is, this is going to have to be bedded on here, top and bottom. I'm going to leave it as a void in the middle because, as I've often said, if your first line of moisture barrier has failed, all you're really going to do by adding more is creating a wet void cavity that's going to stay wet forever. So really, I'm kind of hoping any moisture that gets into here will breathe through the wood and into the inside of the boat and not build up. Caking this up with more bedding is not of any advantage. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a whole bunch of counterbore holes into the gutter piece. I'm going to place it in place. I'm going to deal with all this trimming I have to do here, and then I'm going to tape above and below, remove all this, put the bedding in, which is going to be Sikaflex 295, reapply it, and then clean it up. It's going to be miserable, but it's the best way I can think of getting a really neat, really well bedded joint on there. I hate this stuff. 82, 92, 102. Whew. To help me align putting this on, I'm going to take my little spacer block that I've made, and I know basically I'm going to be about 3/16 of an inch lower than where it used to be. And so I'm just going to mark along here in pretty consistent fashion with a little Sharpie here, and it'll be much easier for me to see these marks on top while I'm working than trying to look underneath. And this little Sharpie mark will hopefully just disappear into the sealant that's gonna go here. The bedding. Oh, I can say this would have been a lot easier with an assistant. However, both Lady Zephyrus and Andrea are in the city this week. Okay, in an attempt to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to make myself a little hanger here that's roughly at the right place. Maybe I'll do it this way. Yes, I think that's better. Okay folks, wish me luck. Let's relieve the clamp here by putting one right here. Now of course it's bowed, so let's start to put some bow in it. Okay, you've got the best view of this right now. Is that look like it's a nice long straight for the first bit, and then start to curve down and down and down. Well, it looks pretty good from here. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, well, it's in place. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to release this screw so I can scribe this, mark it against the curved piece and get this end cut properly. And down at this end, I'll have to pull this out to be able to put the sander on there and tidy that all up. Just keep trying it, but I'm pretty, oh gosh, that looks good. Okay, I can sand this in place and keep test fitting it. Yeah, it feels pretty good. That feels pretty good. Okay, now to cut the little edge of the drip channel here. And I think for that, this might be the ticket. That's pretty much what we have on the other side. And we'll put this back for now. They're flush with that. All right, this end is significantly more stressful. And yeah. So this sits here like that. And you might say, okay, no problem, just mark this and cut it. But there's a couple of things I want to confirm before that, and that's that this is actually square to this face here. And I think I might be able to do that by just sliding this in here. No, in fact, it is not. I don't know if you can see, there is a good 3/8 of an inch gap down here in terms of square. And that's a good thing to know, because if I'd cut this straight, it wouldn't sit nice against here. So when I cut this, I have to lift this a good 3/8 of an inch. In addition, to reduce the chance of blowout, I'm going to cut this with my Japanese saw. And I'm going to use this as a guide. So I'm going to place that right there. I'm going to give myself my 3/8 and I'm going to clamp it. And then use this as a guide for the Jap saw. You'll have noticed a minute ago I was holding a pencil here to avoid doing that. So are we all curious to see how this fits? Very nice. Very, very nice. This angle is perfect. Perfect. It's actually just just touching. Oh my gosh. Oh,